Thank you. Whoever said that, Senator Roberts, thank you very much. I join my colleagues in my disappointment about this hearing today. I'm a little incredulous, too, that the chairman and the ranking member are not here. I don't ever judge other people's schedules. I know how we're all busy, but to not give, to give such short notice for the meeting is a concern to all of us. And I want to talk for a second about what this committee has done historically. It's never done what it's doing today. Our predecessors took the consideration of this legislation much more deliberately. In 1979, Senate Finance held 2 days of hearings on trade policy in advance of considering fast track. They held 9 days of meetings with administration representatives on the substance, 3 days of consultation with Ways and Means. In 1988, this committee held 6 days of legislating hearings on the Omnibus Trade Act. 2001, in anticipation of fast-track legislation coming from the House, the committee held 2 days of hearings on that alone. Yet today we're meeting for a hearing that was noticed 12 hours before it began on a bill we haven't seen, who probably, with witnesses, I assume, who know more than we do, and frankly, Ambassador, never tell us. Why? So we can rush through a bill that will expedite consideration of the largest trade agreement we've ever negotiated. Whenever fast track and other trade bills are finalized, this committee needs to have a legislative hearing on the package before we have a markup. I don't know if the ranking member and the chairman plan to do that. You can't fast track. That's a complete abdication of our responsibilities. I want to lay out a few other points. First, Democrats won't accept massive cuts to TAA, nor will we tolerate separate consideration of TAA, which will jeopardize its passage, especially in the House. Second, there's strong support in this committee, bipartisan, for provisions both in fast track and in our trade remedy laws to fight currency manipulation. It's cost our country as many as 5 million jobs. We won't accept watered-down versions in either of these proposals. Third, the package of bills, as it's been described, again, we don't know much. We'll not do nearly enough on trade enforcement. Any trade package considered by this Congress must include strong trade enforcement provisions, including my Level the Playing Field Act, which was written with direct and detailed consultation with this administration's Department of Commerce, yet we can get no action from this administration on including Level the Playing Field Act in this legislation. Fourth, we're considering a bill that will change Senate rules for the consideration of 2 massive trade acts. The trade agreements, the last time we passed fast track was 12 years ago. A lot's changed in U.S. trade policy since then. The administration is, and the legislative process must be open and methodical for the committee and on the floor for the trade agreement itself. If the administration's committed to helping working class Americans, you, 3, will insist on a strong TA program as part of the bill, an omnibus package that includes strong trade enforcement provisions, again, like the Level Playing Field Act that this administration helped us write. And you'll accept strong bipartisan proposals to fight currency manipulation. Now, my question is this to the ambassador. I can't speak for everyone else on this committee, but from my own experience, USTR's consultations with Congress have been, I hesitate to use this adverb, but I will, pathetically inadequate. Here are some examples. We asked for data showing the utilization rate of the Korean FTA since it's gone into effect. We've got nothing from USTR. We asked for information used to justify the auto rules of origin proposal the U.S. tabled in TPP. USTR gave us nothing. I might add that's where you're able to say, or maybe you aren't, that you actually did renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement. We asked for analysis comparing the NAFTA auto rules of origin to the TPP auto rules of origin proposals. USTR said they did not have it. USTR did say they'd provide information from customs and academic studies that were used to develop the auto rules of origin proposal. 2 months later, Mr. Ambassador, we're still waiting. My staff asked for a meeting on rules of origin in October of last year. USTR dragged their feet. They scheduled it once. They didn't show up. We're still waiting for in-depth briefings 6 months later. We asked to be kept regularly informed on the negotiations between the U.S. and Vietnam on implementing the agreement's labor standards. It's been 17 weeks since that request. We've gotten no update. My staff asked to see the TPP text over recess after she and I viewed it the week before. She was told no. To be clear, she has appropriate clearance and is bound by the laws, our staff, and in all staff in this situation. So in other words, Nora Todd in my office can only go and look at the TPP text with your staff person, USTR, sitting there, only if I'm in the room. We can get access, staff can get access to DOD documents often, to Iran sanctions documents, to CIA briefings, but we can't get access to Trans-Pacific Partnership text. Finally, I was one of the 60 senators that signed the letter urging the administration to include strong enforceable currency disciplines in TPP. It took nearly a year to get a response from the administration. Since then, we've been told by several officials, including yourself, that TPP will include nothing on currency. This list is long. It's actually incomplete. I could list a number of other things where your office has been totally unresponsive. My question is this: is there any legislative text, Mr. Ambassador, that we can include in fast track that would get you to be more responsive to senators, more forthcoming with meaningful information about the trade negotiations, and that would get you to be less dismissive of the United States Senate and the United States House of Representatives?
Well, Senator, I'm sorry that you feel we have been unresponsive. We take our responsibilities very seriously of consulting with Congress. We consult very closely with the staff of this committee, which you have access to, on every proposal before we table it. We've had literally hundreds of consultations with the staff of this committee on TPP. We've had 51 consultations with your office, including 7 with yourself and 44 with your staff on a variety of subjects. But we take this very seriously, and we want to do as much as we possibly can to encourage the dialogue back and forth. And I'm happy to address the issues you've raised either now or later. This is a key part of, I think, of what TPA is intended to lay out, which is what is the process that Congress determines that that the executive should work with Congress before and during the negotiation. What are the processes for transparency and for access to text? I'm glad you raised the issue of text because we've made changes in the last couple of months. As you know, historically, personal staff didn't have access to text at all. The text was only shared with the staff of this committee and of the Ways and Means Committee, our committees of jurisdiction, and of course with members of Congress themselves who have the fundamental responsibility for reviewing the text. We heard from a number of members of Congress over the last couple months, and the general view was of 3 things that they wanted. One is that they wanted the text to be deposited up here so that they didn't have to set up an appointment with USTR to view it. 2, that they wanted to have the text unredacted so that they could see the positions of our trading partners, not just the positions of the United States where there's bracketed text. And 3, a number of members of Congress and the Senate asked that they be allowed to bring their personal staff with them when they are able to view the text to help them understand and analyze the text. We have accommodated all 3 of those requests, both in the House and in the Senate. And so we look forward to working with you and with the leadership of this committee and the leadership.
Well, there's been if I can interrupt, Ambassador, there's been a very specific request a number of times from a number of us in the Senate that our staffs could go. Ms. Todd and I went and spent an hour in the room, and I appreciate it being nearby as if that's a major concession in a trade agreement that's 40% of the world's economy. But we spent an hour there. She wanted to go back in the 2 weeks that I had returned to Ohio, and she was not allowed to go back in spite of repeated requests. However, my staff can go and view all kinds of other documents with the proper intelligence clearance, can view all kinds of other topics. To say that having to do with national defense, and it just begs the question. This is not, if I could say this is not smart politics for you and the trade rep to try to sell this huge agreement to a very cynical, to a very skeptical Senate and a very worried public, Senator, because we know. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I want to finish, and I'm going to, if you will allow me, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I didn't know you were in the room. Now I apologize for that. I don't understand why my staff can't go, just because it might have been precedent why she cannot go in this room in the 2 weeks that all of us were gone, that couldn't read this text. It just begs the question of what are you hiding?
Yeah, we're happy to work with the chairman and the ranking member of this and the Ways and Means.
The answer is not yes. The answer is not Ms. Todd can go in and look. The answer is you'll work with the chairman to continue to stonewall and continue to deny access to this agreement from a staff person in the United States Senate. That's your answer?
Senator, your time is up.